Greetings, all. It's Dr. Bankhead here at the Struggle in Thinking Out Loud. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about television. I may have talked about television before, but I'm going to talk about television again. In 2005, my electricity went out in the apartment. There was an electric storm and it knocked out the electricity in the entire building. As a result, I didn't have a surge protector on my printer, my telephone, my television, or my refrigerator. And the electricity surged through so much that it blew out the whatever you call that thing in the apartment building and blew it out. And so most people experience some loss of their electronic devices. Anyway, that was in 2005. And at that time, they were switching from analog to digital, and they were going to cable and satellite. And before that, television had been free. And I said to myself, I'm not interested in purchasing a new television because that would mean I would have to have cable or satellite, and I wasn't interested in paying for television because I'd always had free television. So I refused to buy a television, and that's how it started. Okay, so after I had gone without a television for a little while, I began to make some interesting observations. I, myself, made observations, okay? My observations, I made them. So I observed that, in my interesting point of view, people were treating the television like an altar in their home. I noticed that when I went to visit people, invariably they would say, "What do you want to watch on television?" I'm saying, "I don't want to watch anything. I come to visit you." And then I noticed that people have televisions in every room in their house. They have televisions in the kitchen, the living room, the game room, the bedroom, and some of them have them in the bathroom. So then I noticed that in conversations, people were invariably talking about some form of information that they received off the television, either from the news or generally commercials and sometimes television programs. So, someone's saying, "Oh, did you hear about what he did with her?" And I'm like, "Who is he and who is she?" And they're saying, "Oh, and they throw out names like Empire. Well, okay, I've heard about Empire, but I've not watched it. In any event, so people are discussing television as though it were, well, it's a main topic of conversation. I mean, they heard this and that on the news, and I'm like amazed at people believing the stuff that they heard on the news because I'm saying to myself, how do you know? I remember back in 1972, I believe it was, during the Watergate crisis, I was not in this country. I was abroad, I was in Europe. And I got a totally different story about Watergate than the people got over here. So that cued me in to the fact that I do remember when I was in what is it, history class, they were teaching us about yellow journalism and they told us it did not exist because yellow journalism is a form of propaganda and they don't do that here in the United States. I remember them teaching us that. So I said to myself, that's it. I just said, because I was making observations. I mean to say, I know magicians can do sleight of hand, and you see things that you think you see things that you don't see, and you don't see things that you think you do see. So I know that there's such a thing as sleight of hand, but yet and still I make observations. Yes. And so uh, I forgot where I was in the story. Give me a moment.